Graham, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about the new album. I believe the new album is done.
Yeah.
I've seen the Imposter single. The video is awesome. So when can we see the full album? When will we be able to check that out?
May. What's the date, Bethany? The album release. Was it May what? What's the album release date? May 13th. Yeah, May the 13th.
You had to check with the boss there. I saw that.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm terrible with dates and people's names. And, everything is supposed to be lousy as you get older. And, I am older.
Well, you know what? The Imposter video is awesome. And so when I heard that song, I'm like, this is going to be a great album. And I got to tell you, I really like the last Alcatraz album. I haven't been able to, obviously haven't heard all of the new album yet, but how are they different? What can we expect to be different about the new, Graham Bonnet album versus the last Alcatraz album?
Yeah, well, I think to say an awful phrase which I hate is like, it's a little bit heavier, if you will. The production sounds more modern. I had a great microphone to sing on, by the way. This fantastic microphone that picks up every nuance of your voice, and I couldn't believe it, how clear it makes everything, clarity. But also the band was, I don't know, we went to make it a little bit, more bollocks, more ballsy, and I think that's happening. It sounds very modern, and everybody, actually the people I've spoken to are saying what you're saying. It just sounds better than the albums before, just the overall sound. And I think what we went for is we've actually captured that. We wanted a balls to the wall sound, and I think with the first single, I think that's a taster of what's to come after Imposter. Some of the other stuff is sort of, to me, a little bit even more, scary.
Yeah, and
but not too. Not like that, but I mean,
no, it's great, and I think for those that have been paying attention, right, the Imposter video is great because there's some references to Graham Bonnet's career. There's kind of the scene where it shows the kind of the reflection of the younger Graham in the mirror. I just very well done. Yeah.
Well, the beginning part has like the TV sets in the background. That's me from when I was 29 years old or whatever, or even younger, from 19.
Yeah.
So all those things are all frames of me when I was, the first thing I ever did, that was of any success was with my cousin. We were called the Marbles.
Right.
And the Bee Gees wrote out songs for us because my cousin used to be in the Marbles. I mean, in the Bee Gees before they moved from Australia to England, and they separated. They separated for a while. Then we found, Trevor found the Bee Gees, and I got to meet them when I was 19, and they wrote a song for us, which was amazing, and it did really well. But all the other stuff you see is, a little bit later. I was doing solo stuff later on.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the Marbles and the Bee Gees, because actually I had a question about the Bee Gees, and you kind of just answered it. That's fascinating, and I believe if my history's correct, Richie Blackmore had seen that Marbles video when it was a hit, or we didn't call them videos back then, but he was aware of that Only One Woman song from way back.
Yeah.
And when the time came for looking for a new singer, he's like, who's that guy from the Marbles? Let's find him.
Yeah, that's what I hear. He sort of was joined to the rest of the guys because they were playing the game. That's where you heard the song again. They're playing the Spot the Tune game. And Cozy had a cassette. Remember cassettes?
Yes, I remember.
He had a cassette. Put it on. They were so bored. They played games every night because we're in the middle of nowhere recording the what was to become the Down to Earth album. And they put my track came up, and somebody said, "What happened to this guy?" And I heard he lost his voice and whatever, and doesn't do anything anymore. But I got the audition, went through the audition, and passed the audition. Which was kind of surprising to me because I thought, well, I didn't really fit with this band. Because before that I was doing, R&B stuff and pop music, which I love, and nothing wrong with playing pop music. But I mean, it's all the same notes, just a different kind of way of putting all the notes together, you know. And I found out that because I was scared of going into a band that sounded so kind of classical, and I was wondering how I should sing on it, and where do the verses go, and where does the chorus come in, you know. So Roger Glover, Roger Glover helped me out, bless him. You know, we sat and, you know, we went through different melodies for all the songs of the album, on the album, and you know. But at first, I really didn't think I was right. I went back to London and I said to my manager in London, I said, you know, I'm not right for this band. They need somebody with the long hair and the flowing robes. And it ain't me, you know. Because Cozy Powell at first called me the bank manager. Because I turned up with a grey suit on and, you know, the whole thing. And, but, you know, it's not the way you look. It's what comes out of your soul or your body.
Right.
You know? But now a lot of people look like me. They've all got their hair
totally
short. And,
you know. You know, 1982 was when MTV first came to my house, and I'm like a 14-year-old. And I can remember the funniest thing. I'm sitting in front of MTV, and my mom wasn't into rock music at all. Yeah. But guess what video is on? It's a Rainbow video with Graham Bonnet singing "Since You've Been Gone." And my mom walks by and she goes, "Well, that looks like a nice, clean-cut young man."
Which, of course, I am.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But it was just, even my mom noticed, that guy doesn't look like all the other guys I see on your records and stuff, right? And I just thought that was very funny. That was one of the things that was unique about Graham Bonnet, was he didn't look like everyone else. No. Which is so funny, because this whole image of rock and roll is, they have a uniform, they have a look. Yeah. You're supposed to have long hair. You're supposed to do this. And yet here's Graham Bonnet, who looked completely, he was the original, right? In the sea of all these long-haired, you know, heavy metal bands. It was just funny. Well, so,
you know, that's what I was saying about, you know, I didn't feel I was right because of the way I looked and the way I dressed. Because I very much into like 1950s rock and roll and all that kind of thing, you know, and R&B basically. And I had this, which I, to this day, still wear the same damn clothes. Right. Not the one, they don't smell, but I mean, you know, I still had the same kind of outfits, you know, suits and whatever, as you've seen on the video. You know, that's me. I wouldn't change. You know, Richie was a bit upset about it. Richie Blackmore was, you know, wanting me to grow my hair, as you know, it's an old story now, but I didn't want to, because that's not me, you know. Right. And I said, you know, well, do you want my hair or do you want the voice? You know. Right. Well, you got my mom's approval. You got my mom's approval. So, I know. So let me, and I'm choosing my words carefully, and I don't mean it to sound negative. All right. You are kind of, since coming into Rainbow, you're kind of, I'll use the word pigeonholed. You're kind of pigeonholed as a hard rock guy. Yeah. But your background, you already mentioned, in the Marbles, you know, is a more pop, more R&B, even some soulful stuff that you did before that. Yeah. If it were all up to Graham Bonnet, would you be doing the hard rock thing, or would you be doing more R&B or pop, or what do you think? Well, anything, you know. I mean, when I made albums, I didn't choose the tracks to be in any certain genre. I just sang whatever came along, you know. I mean, I did like Al Green's "I'm Tired of Being Alone," you know, things like that, and "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," that thing, you know. That's what got me the gig with Rainbow, by the way. That was Richie's favorite track. When I used to go to his house, he would be playing. I was like, "What are you playing that for?" Because I like it. We ended up doing it on stage a couple of times as well. Yeah, but I think I've seen that. I would be doing, you know, like, I like this song, just good songs, but of every different kind of genre, really. Not one particular. Yeah, I'm pigeonholed. Now I've got to be, you know, I sings high notes and very loud, you know. But I'm not always like that. That's not, to me, that's not singing. That's, I like to give my voice, you know, a bit of room to stretch a bit, which is, I've always done since I was a little kid, you know. When I started singing, I was listening to the radio when I was about 7 or something, and Mario Lanza was my favorite singer, you know. And I would be going around the house, and my mum and dad would laugh at him because I'm going, doing all this. You know, but then this big voice came out, which I guess it comes from my mom or my dad or somebody. But anyway, that's what I started singing, and so because I started so early, about 7 years old, I think I developed that, and I also had the luxury of having big lungs that my granddad had. Granddad Bonnet had a huge chest, which I kind of have, and so this voice comes out because I've got large lungs, as they say, not large tits, but large lungs. And you know, it's something I've been very lucky to be born with, because when you have the air, you have you can produce better notes at lower tones. You can use better vibrato, etc. And you know, as some of my friends got older, singers, they smoked, they drank, and all the wrong things. Right. Gain weight and etc. And of course, smoking it will cock up your breathing for a start. I'm asthmatic, but not through smoking or anything. But I'm an asthma sufferer, and it's not easy sometimes to actually produce a good vocal sound. But I work on it, and I listen to everything I do 2,000 times over when we're recording. Go, no, let me do that bit again. That one word. Right. Which everybody does, to make a record, studio is really it's under the microscope.
So I'm going to ask a question. Then there's a follow-up question. The song, first of all, you have had the opportunity, you've played, and you've had to answer all these questions. And I vowed, Graham, I will not ask you the questions that you get asked every single interview. So, you are really underrated as a lyricist. Oh, and I'm going to give you a few examples, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, one of my all-time favorites, Desert Song, Star Car Lane, Cree Nakuri, General Hospital, and the one I really wanted to ask you about, which I think is autobiographical, it's a true story, is Skyfire.
Yeah.
And so first, for those that might not be familiar with the Skyfire, this is the second Alcatraz album with Steve Vai.
Yeah.
The Skyfire is the song I play. You don't know this, Graham, but I'm a Graham Bonnet evangelist, right? All of my friends, I say, you're going to listen to this song, right? And I play them Skyfire.
Yeah.
Skyfire comes in with this smooth, Everly Brothers type vocal line, smooth, a pretty voice. And then all of a sudden it turns into a blowtorch. It's like you flip a switch. And I play that for people and I say, just hold on, because it's that smooth. And then and to me, that's what you do better than anyone is you sing. It's very powerful. It's got kind of a rough edge, and then you can go right back to silky smooth. And that song vocally is maybe my favorite Graham Bonnet song.
Really?
But
thank you.
From the lyric, you just have such interesting lyrics. And where do you get the ideas for, you can tell us about Skyfire, but
sure,
the other songs are not typical hard rock fare, subject matter wise.
Like what the way I appear, my image, my dress, whatever, the way I dress, the way I look is anti heavy metal, if you will, but I'm not anti heavy metal. Yeah, but I look as though I'll be singing "She Gets Too Hungry," hey, word, and you know what I mean? I look like a lounge singer or a bank manager. But
you're right.
But when I make up a song, I want to look for a subject that is interesting and something that I've experienced, I've seen on the news or whatever. But Skyfire was something that happened when I lived in I lived in Calabasas at the time here, and near the Topanga Canyon. I don't know if you know this area very well, that area, but anyway. And I was watching TV. We're sitting around just watching TV, and there was this little light in the sky, a little green dot. And I watched it. The green dot got bigger and bigger until it became like a big oval shape. And I said, what the fuck? You know, I said to my then wife, I said, what the fuck is that? You know? And she said, I don't know. But it was like the sky was on fire. And it was over towards the beach, towards Malibu, you know, where the beach is. And it was over there, and a lot of people at the beach were reporting it, you know, you know, phoning up and asking what the hell it was. I don't know what it was to this day, but it looked like the sky was on fire, and it got bigger and bigger and greener and greener. And it was like, what the hell? I have no idea what it was, but the sky was on fire. Then it suddenly, it just went away, just sort of dissipated. And it was just a puzzling thing. But on the news, people were, you know, going, well, don't worry, it's nothing. It's not something, you know, it's not a bomb or whatever the hell.
Right.
Nobody really knew what it was. So that's where the song came from, because I like to report on things that I see on TV or whatever, and about real life instead of, you know, sort of mythical beasts or pulling the sword from the stone. I like real stuff. You know,
yeah, and I like.
I think real life is sometimes more scary than a dragon. I really do. Like one I wrote with Michael Schenker recently was about Alzheimer's. And it's called The Beast That Lives in the Shadow. I mean, that sounds very, you know, like that. But it's actually about Alzheimer's, because that took my dad and it took my brother, and that's what the song is all about. And that was chosen for a single a couple of years ago when I was playing with Michael and recording with him.
I'm wondering a little bit about that creative process, Graham, whether whoever it was you were working with, you play guitar, you probably play some other instruments, but does a song begin with you? Does the lyric come first? Are you playing along on your guitar? Is it based on a riff that your guitar player? How does that happen?
Yeah, it's basically like that. If I have something I play on my acoustic, I have an idea for a melody or something, and then I pass it on to the guitar player, whoever that may be at the time. And then other times it's the guitar player will come in with a whole fucking riff that goes on for about 12 years. There's a lot of guitar players, and you go, okay, well, let it down a bit. You know? And that's the way I make up songs. You know, they send me an arrangement, and I put on my melody and my words. That's basically how it's done, very simply. And as I said, if I play something on my acoustic album arrangement, then they take it their way because they play better than me, and they play that groovy widdly stuff. You know.
Exactly. And Graham, you have to forgive me because I'm like a kid in the candy store, because there's so many of these songs that I've wanted to talk to you about. So hopefully you're okay with me asking some of these questions. So Star Car Lane. Star Car Lane lyrically is one of the most unheavy metal songs ever. and one of my all-time favorite songs ever. Tell me about the inspiration of that song.
Well, that's me talking about being a little boy and going to Star Car Lane where my grandma and granddad lived and spending time there. You know, we had a kerosene lamp on the table, no electricity, no TV, but they had a radio. So we'd be playing dominoes. This is all in the lyric. I know you probably know. I don't know. So the kerosene lamp lit the table, and I'd be drawing. I did a lot of artwork there when I was over there. I had a big artist pad, and my mum and dad and grandma and granddad would play dominoes, which I joined in with later, but I wasn't that into it. And we'd be listening to the radio, and that's what that's about. Star Car Lane and the rabbits and all that stuff in the fields. I used to go out in the morning on my own to the cornfield that had been, the combine harvester had been by, and all the rabbits were running around grabbing what they could. And I'd go and take my granddad's little terrier dog out there, and she'd be chasing them while I watched them run away. She never got them. I've made sure of that. But it's basically that story of what I went through when I was about, 9 years old, maybe, something like that. I like the melody to that. I think that turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it's a wonderful song. And I mean, it is such a juxtaposition with the lyrics compared to the riffage going on.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant song. It's a brilliant song. And so I always get a little frustrated when they'll talk about how great a singer Graham Bonnet was. They'll talk about how great Malmsteen or Vai or Schenker is or whatever, which I agree. But those are just some great songs that don't get appreciated like they should. I think they're phenomenal.
People never listen to words. They don't listen to they always go, what's that about? Well, just read it. You know, you'll know what it's about because it's a story, you know, from top to bottom. Like the next single we're doing is a story about somebody I knew when I was at school. It's called Uncle John, which is, you know, what's that about, you know? But Uncle John was, he was actually a teacher at my school, and everybody loved him. He was a substitute teacher. Everybody loved him. He looked, you know, had a nice suit and all that kind of thing. Everybody, the girls especially loved him, you know, like 14-year-old girls, whatever, or 13-year-old girls. And, but there was something strange about him that I didn't know about at all. It was creeping me out. He sort of creeped me out a little bit, the way he was. He was too friendly with some of the kids. And when he left, there was a newspaper article about this pedophile that had been picked up and put in jail. And it was him.
Wow.
So that's what this song is about. And it's very heavy. And it's really, really musical. It starts off in 3/4 time, but then it's got 4/4 in there. And the actual time signatures change all the time. It's very cool. I love it. So we did the video 3 days ago, I think it was, wasn't it, Bethany?
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah. So Bethany, me, Conrad, and Alessandro, and oh God, I always think Shane. What's his last name?
Galas.
Yeah, I can never pronounce his name. Shane Galas. He was an amazing drummer. I mean, the intro to the song is him playing this really odd timing. It's a great track. I love it. Not because we made it up, but there's something. It's very unusual. It's not your everyday so-called heavy metal thing. But it's not a sweet ballad. It's about a fucking pedophile. And this guy went to jail anyway, and I couldn't believe it was him. When I looked in the paper, I went, "It is him. That's our teacher." Yeah. So real stories are more scary than dragons.
Big time, and
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
The scope is so. One of my favorites, Graham, is Bigfoot. Okay, that song is just number one. It's one of my favorite guitar riffs. You know.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But even I've always been impressed that Graham Bonnet will write a song about anything, and it works.
I'm doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to see it? Yeah, I've written. Let's see. I'm doing an album with Jeff Loomis, the fantastic guitar player, for Graham Bonnet's Alcatraz. Right. But my main baby is the GB band. But this is going to be probably a one-off with Jeff. I don't know, because he's doing other stuff anyway. You know, he's very successful in what he does. But he's a great heavy guitar player, and it comes up with some great arrangements. So I've made up now. We're thinking about doing a 10-song album up to number 5 now.
Wow.
Which I've had that for a couple of months. But the subject matter is very variable. There's a bit of everything in there. You know,
and that's
I want to start doing that.
As much as I love Ronnie Dio, right? He was kind of one-dimensional in terms of, let's sing about Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that was kind of his deal,
exactly.
Right? And he was awesome in it.
I was always anti that because I didn't see it. And I thought the costume that those guys wore, I thought, well, no, I'm not going to dress in spandex pants and have a robe and all this stuff. I mean, I had long hair when I was a hippie back in 1960, whatever it was, 1970. I got over the long hair by the time I was about, 20-something years old, and kept it ever since. But Dungeons and Dragons, I can't do that. It's funny to me. It's like Jack and the Beanstalk. Why not write a song about Jack and the fucking Beanstalk? That's what it is. Fantasy.
Hey, there could be a Jack and the Beanstalk song in your future, Graham.
It's not in me.
So, okay, we all, everyone knows Graham Bonnet has played with some of the best guitar players in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask this question. When you look back to all those phenomenal musicians, not just guitar players, you've played with phenomenal keyboard players, and you just have the drummers Graham Bonnet has played with. When you think back over your career, Graham, what are the highlights when you think of the most fun you were having? When was the time that you were enjoying yourself the most in the creative process, working with the musicians? When was that?
Well, I think that really begins, back in 1968 when I was working with the Bee Gees, because the first record we had out was called Only One Woman. And I remember going into IBC Studios in Portland Place in London and doing a La La track for that thing. And with Barry and Morris and Robin all standing there right next to me, listening to what I was going to do. And, they went, oh, yeah, that's good. And my cousin, who was my partner in the Marbles, he said, Graham, why don't you go up there? He said, I know you can do it because we've been singing since we're, little kids, me and him. And so he said, yeah, I know you can go up there. What you should do is change the melody a bit on Barry's melody. So, he was okay. He was comfortable with the Bee Gees because he used to be in the Bee Gees when he was in Australia. So they were very comfortable to get all of them. So he gave me this high note. Oh, okay. So it's like, it's a C sharp. Actually, I don't know what the note is. And, it's not really up there, but for back then, it kind of was, And then when the final version came out, it actually went, we did it, it goes up to a D, which is above C sharp. So it's pretty high, and that became part of my freaking, vocal range. Everybody said, oh, can you do it where you go really high? But that's a happy time. I'll never, ever forget it. The time I had with those boys, the Gibb brothers, I was watching them this morning, in fact, on YouTube or something. And they've been great musicians ever since they were little toddlers. To see the three of them and singing in harmony was like amazing. And my first recollection of really having a great time was singing with those guys at their manager's house. We're singing all together. And we're doing Beach Boys and Stevie Wonder and a bit of everything. But we're just fucking perfect harmony. Because, my cousin was harmonizing. I was singing sometimes the lead, or sometimes Robin was singing the lead, or Barry. And it was just such fun. And I wasn't even thinking about being, famous or anything, but that comfort I had with such beautiful music and great voices. I know the Bee Gees aren't, heavy or anything, but they're great musicians. Barry Gibb is one of the most prolific writers I've ever known in my life. It can write any freaking song,
Have you kept in touch with Barry at all? Have you kept in touch with Barry?
Barry's very much keeps himself to himself. I've been in touch with their tour manager, or manager, if you will, all the time. I write to him and say, well, what's Barry doing? Yeah, well, he's doing this and doing that. Because I asked him at one point if Barry would write a song for me, and we sort of heavy it up a bit or something. And he said, well, he's too busy now. He's doing he's doing his own albums, because he's on his own now, Barry. Just him. His mom was the last person to die, actually, which is fucking weird. Because then Andy Gibb, and then Morris, and
Andy,
Robin.
and then both of his brothers.
His mom was alive forever, and she died. I don't know how many years ago, but not that long ago.
They're great.
All her kids died, except for Barry and Leslie. So he's got a sister. His sister's still alive, and Barry. And I miss that time so much. I was saying to Beth this morning, I miss those guys, the Gibb brothers, because we always used to be together.
So what was that transition like, going from the Marbles to then all of a sudden you're in Rainbow, and not just in Rainbow, but oh, by the way, we're going to headline one of the biggest rock festivals ever.
Yeah, I mean, when I eventually became comfortable with Rainbow, I will say that's another good time I had, because there was every time we went on stage, I didn't feel nervous. I felt very comfortable. I've said this a million times in other interviews. It was like walking into my mum and dad's house, and a warm feeling when I heard that audience go, whatever they did when we walked on stage was just so comforting. And I felt safe with that. I might be tired or whatever, and I knew that these guys behind me were going to kick me in the bum. If I was getting a bit lazy, they would name of a song. They'll get a bit, you know, they would punch. You know, Cozy would look at me and go, come on, go on, you know, whatever. But it was the most safe feeling I've ever had on stage. You know, to go out in front of, I don't know, 18,000 people or whatever. I'd never been on the road before, ever. Except with my cousin, we did in the Marbles, like maybe 4 gigs, all in the London area, you know, and not very successful, I must say. Nobody came, but we had a hit record. But that's Donington, the Castle Donington thing, that is burned in my memory forever. My family was there, my brother, my mum and dad, my friends from school, etc. And I was very proud of myself that night, but I was also very tired. And before we went on stage, I was talking to Don Airy, and he said, I'm fucking knackered, Graham. He said, how do you feel? I said, I feel a bit the same. And because it was a sad night, because of Cozy leaving the band. He was going to leave that night. And he did. We tried to convince him to stay, but what a fucking show. I watched it, you know, like a little later after we recorded it. And I thought, ooh, I don't know about watching this, but it was okay. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was, you know.
It's really good, you know, and obviously the down to earth stuff that's yours, right? It's awesome. But you're doing like Stargazer and Man on the Silver Mountain. And there's just something cool about seeing a guy in, you know, synthetic I think you're wearing red pants. I think you're wearing
red cords.
Red cords. And there's just, I mean, that's the coolest thing ever. And it's just, it's phenomenal. It's great.
I'll never forget it. I'm very proud of that. I really am, because for one reason, I got to sing in front of my mum and dad, and they saw the band play live for the first time, and they were just blown away. You know how much work goes into Rainbow, all those intricate parts, guitar and keyboards. It's like, you can't beat that. You can't.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. I didn't have to sing, really.
I think
the vocals are all right.
I would love. I'm thinking of this just, you know, off the top of my mind, between Graham Bonnet and Don Airy. Okay, these are 2 guys that have played with more awesome musicians, I think, than any other 2 people on the face of the earth. And then to have you both together is awesome. I just think that's really cool. Really cool.
Well, Don's a great friend of mine. I always say, like, me and Cozy and Don were like the 3 Musketeers. We always went out together, you know, in the daytime sometimes, you know, to get away from the band situation. And, you know, I miss Cozy a lot. But I still have Don. And, I mean, Don has done a track on this album. In fact, Don Airy song on here, Don Airy and Graham Bonnet. Yeah. For the first time, I've never written a song with Don before, but there's a song on the album that he sent me the track, and I did my bit, you know, and it's turned out pretty well. In fact, the whole fucking album's turned out well.
Yeah,
really
I'm only basing it on the first single, but I can't wait.
That's a great fucking song. That I love it.
It's an awesome song. It's
not because of me, but because of the way. Well, yeah, because of me a bit, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the whole.
It's just great song. And I like it's heavy, but it's got some of that keyboard element that I like so much from Rainbow and from Alcatraz. Your lineup album, John Lord was on that album, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he play? So, I mean, Don Airy, John Lord, Cozy Powell. I mean, what an awesome.
How can you lose?
History.
I mean, that album was. The lineup album was so much fun. It was really great to make, because every morning we'd all come in at the same time, about 9 o'clock in the morning, which was surprising to me because of those naughty boys going out at night sometimes. But we all arrived at the same time, so everyone was eager to play. Well, they're getting paid anyway. But I remember a story I've told before, but John Lord came in one morning. He said, "Good morning, gentlemen." He used to do his very British accent. "Good morning, gentlemen. How are we? You know, we're okay, thank you, John. You know, and you know, the baffled boys. And I had one place where I was sitting, and you know, everybody has their little area in the studio, and John had his area boarded off. You know what I mean? Those boards that you put around people when they're playing. I don't know the real name of it, but those things. And this bag rattling and vodka, gin, boom, 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 beer. Gentlemen, the bar is open. That was John Lord's Good Morning. And so it was. But, you know, even though we'd all had a bit to drink or whatever, the fucking album turned out great, I think.
Yeah.
You know, but we only took it so far. We didn't get shit-faced. But it was just, that was typical John Lord. The bar is open.
Yeah.
His fake posh accent.
So Graham, you know more than anyone, the music industry's completely changed from the 70s, right? Specifically things like, you know, people listen to music differently. They don't buy albums anymore. We've got streaming now. Is it better or worse today? What do you think?
Well, you know, I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I think it's worse. People listen to the little, you know, they don't get the full blast of nice stereo, you know, things like that. I mean, they do if they, you know, put money into it, but most people listen on headphones, and I'm always surprised how they can get any, you know, feeling from that. You know, I always like to have the feeling of the speakers and the bass and everything. You know what I mean? Pumping at you. Not that I have any equipment like that now. I don't. I listen on headphones too. You know, I'm as bad as they are. But it's everything's manufactured to death now. That's another thing. The auto tuning is like over the fucking top, and there's people going into the studio who can't fucking sing at all, and you know, you hear the auto tuning. They don't even disguise it, and that awful. I just can't. There's nothing inspires me very much about what's happening now with a lot of music, because it's not the way I remember it, and I don't want that to sound like my mum and dad or something. Right. But it's but they weren't that way. They loved the Beatles when they came out. But I mean, there's not a Beatles out there. I'm waiting for that to happen. It hasn't. The first time I thought the Beatles would come along was when I heard Queen for the first time. You know, now that's good.
Remember, Graham, you would buy an album, and it was a tactile experience, right? You'd have the album, lots of time it was a gatefold, it would open up, you know, it was it was album art, right? You'd pull out the disc. I remember my daughter a few years ago when I brought my records out of storage, she pulls out these big vinyl discs and she says, "Dad, what is this? Is this like a giant CD?" You know, it was completely foreign to them. But vinyl's coming back, right? Which is good. But the idea of now you just buy one song at a time, or you stream a song. They're missing out on that whole experience. You put the needle on the record.
Like you're saying, you open that thing, you fold it out, and there's all the words. And the photographs of the guy, the Beatles album, you know, Abbey Road, and you know, Sergeant Pepper. I remember getting that album and just fascinated by just the photographs. But when I heard the music, you know, Lucy and all those songs, bloody hell. I mean, that was such a great album. But it's the smell of it too. You know, as you open the vinyl, but I think we're putting out a vinyl too, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
I
think there'll be a white vinyl.
I will be buying it on vinyl. Yes. So as soon as it comes out, I'm buying it on vinyl. Did you ever think, Graham, you know, as you're singing with your cousin in the marbles, did anything ever cross your mind that now, I think if I'm doing my math right, you're in your 74, is that right?
Yeah.
Did you ever think when I'm 74, I'm going to be still putting out not only albums, but hard rock albums? Did that ever even cross your mind?
Yeah, I didn't see the hard. Well, I wanted to, you know, now I've made it my career since I was, you know, 19 or whatever, and got paid for it and was on TV all the time, doing interviews, etc. I really didn't think it would ever end, and I don't want it to. I mean, if it ends, that means I'm dead, and I don't want to do that either. That's not very good. I want to be above ground for as long as I can be, and keep on writing songs that are always in my head every day. But I never thought I would be so-called well known. I'm not famous. I'm known, but not, you know, like a household name or anything. But I never thought it would come to anything. I thought after the Marbles, me and my cousin split up, I thought that was it. I started doing sessions and, you know, commercials. And I thought my life was over, sort of as a, you know, someone who was seen on TV and visual all the time or whatever, and was newsworthy. So, but then I got offers from a lot of different bands, which I was really surprised. ELO was one of them. I went to hear all the ELO music at Philips Studio in London. Jeff Lynne and Roy Wood were there, and they offered me the job. And my girlfriend at the time said, "Oh, no, don't do it. You'll be on the road all the time. You know, lots of women." She didn't want me to do it, and I turned the fucking thing down.
Yeah.
ELO, what the hell? But I wonder how that would have gone, though, with me singing instead of, you know, basically Jeff Lynne. Yeah, and I was told by one of the guys in ELO later that Jeff did like everything. He didn't want anybody to be too involved. All the arrangements were his ideas. All the vocals were, well, yeah, obviously him. But he wanted me to also play bass, because I think Roy Wood wanted to play cello or something at that time. But Roy Wood didn't join the band. And I said, well, I'm not sure if I can. You know, I played session bass. You know, I said, I don't think I can do that and sing at the same time. You know, I can play guitar and sing at the same time, but not bass. It's sort of, I don't know. It's like a drummer singing. How the fuck do they do that?
It's an interesting thing. Yeah, as I'm a guitar player, but if I try to sing while I play bass, it's impossible. Same with me. Even though people assume the bass is an easier instrument, I can't do it.
It's not.
No,
it really isn't.
Yeah,
you've got to have that feel too. The bass feel is completely different to a guitar. You know, even though it's a percussion instrument, you know, if you're playing rhythm, you know, I'm good at that. You know, I can do the percussive kind of rhythm stuff, but I could never. Well, with the bass, I was all right. I haven't played bass properly for a long time now, but I would get booked to play bass and do backing vocals. That's another thing I got booked for with sessions, and I thought that's the way my life was going to be.
So I know this is like me asking you to pick your favorite child here, but I'm going to ask it anyways. When you're doing your live set, is there particular songs you enjoy more, or from particular bands that you enjoy doing the most? What are your favorites to do live?
Well, I like doing Only One Woman from the album. You know, we do that once in a while. We play that because it's especially when we play in America, nobody knows what that song is, and that they, you know, oh, what's that song? After shows, I've been asked what that is. You know, and that's the first song I ever recorded in my life, basically. You know, seriously. But I like, oh man, there's so many bloody songs there. There's so much. I guess from the Rainbow year, I would say like Lost in Hollywood, Eyes of the World.
Yeah.
There's a bunch on there. I like the whole fucking album. It's hard to pick because I can't go back that far. My mind isn't working properly this morning. But I mean, there was some stuff I did when I was, let's see, in the Marbles was this track I love called A House Is Not a Home, which is a big orchestra thing. And then later I did the Al Green song, I'm Tired of Being Alone. I like the vocal on that.
Yeah.
And, oh man. It's hard to pick a favorite. I don't really have a favorite, I guess.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I got to ask. I had to ask.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick a. You know, it is like asking, you know, who's your favorite kid? It's almost impossible because they all meant something to me in a different way. They always bring like a certain time, and if the time was good, I love that song that I recorded at that time. You know, and that's how we relate to old music. I think that's why people love to hear old songs, because it takes them back to that time when they were younger or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said something that made me think of this earlier, Graham. And if a song is really a good song, it doesn't matter what genre it is, you know. And so one of my favorite artists, and my podcast is about classic rock, but one of my favorite all-time artists is Karen Carpenter.
Yeah.
And I think you're that way. You love good music regardless of what pigeonhole it comes from.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. But as I said, I haven't heard anything recently that I would sort of go, wow, that's good. Yeah. I don't know why. It just, a lot of the bands just sound like, I don't know, like it's a rehash of what happened before, the so-called heavy metal bands,
Right.
but with a bit more distortion. You know,
Totally.
everything's fucking distorted. It sounds horrible.
Well, and from a vocal standpoint, I call it the Cookie Monster vocals. You know, these guys sing like, you know,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
But it's fashionable right now. All the kids love it, you know. Oh,
yeah, that's
you
right.
know, I mean, because it's not your mums and dad's music. You know, that's what rock and roll was all about. Mum and dad won't like it. You know,
right?
But they did. You know.
Yeah. Well, Graham, you don't know how much this has meant to me. I have thought since I'm 14, 15 years old, someday I want to talk to Graham Bonnet and ask him about Skyfire. So I had a chance to do that. And
thanks.
And I really appreciate it. And if there's anything I can help you with in terms of promoting your new album or whatever,
absolutely.
Just
tell everybody when it comes out.
I will do that.
May 13th.
May the 13th.
May 13th. I'm buying it on vinyl. Yes, I'm buying it on vinyl. I'll do a review.
And look out for the new video.
And I'll be watching
Uncle John, which is a track from the new album.
Okay, I'm watching. Graham, thank you for joining me on a Saturday. I'm sure this is the last thing you want to do is talk to a podcaster in his basement, but thank you for doing it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.